Thank you, Team NutriSoil, for again putting this on. More and more of these things are occurring, and I think that's a really healthy sign. There's a full house here. Every regenerative ag type event seems to be filling up, and filling up quickly. So again, I think that's a wonderful sign of that there is definitely a movement taking place. Couple of quick questions, keep you away. Who loves Joel Salatin? Yeah, Joel, take note. Who loves yummy, nutritiously dense food? Good. And who's loving the conference so far? Good, right, just checking, I'm in the right place. You're all on the page. Other questions, just to get a sense of the crowd, who are clients of NutriSoil at the moment? Yeah, quite a few. What about broadacre farming, mainly cropping, grazing? Yeah, a lot of, oh, that's interesting, a lot of graziers. Anyone who's not a farmer, who's just here to sort of get their head around the, yeah, couple? And is that the intention to transition or get in the farming game? Mark Leary? Information, beautiful. Let's hope I can fill that gap. Horticulture? No? Couple of, yeah? Good, okay, that's great. And I'd just like to know who I'm talking to. Okay, so that's me. I'm going to give you a rundown on, I guess, my journey from conventional industrial farming to where we are at the moment. And I'll just get underway, eh? Stop talking. Farm life, Hannah Minnow. So Hannah Minnow is our family, it is a family, is our family farm at Burrawa. And Mum and Dad moved from southeast Queensland there 50 years ago. And that's Burrawa down there, north of here. Anyone familiar with Burrawa? Yes. Anyone not know where Burrawa is? Shame on you. Now you know, right? I'm going to test, there'll be a test after this. That's us, Mum, Dad, dog, me, my brother Mark. Many years ago, Style Master already, look at that, eh? That's us, Kids in the Paddock, which was all about family involvement. And when I grew up, I didn't want to be anything else but a farmer, to be honest. That was all I knew, and that's all I really wanted to be. And that, at the end of the day, was actually fine. There was a time in my life where I actually thought, I'd been sort of directed in this particular direction, and I resisted that at times. But, upon reflection, it's actually been a wonderful, beautiful journey. And I have so many stories, and I can tell you the history and the story connected to every strainer post, every tree, every gateway. And I guess there's probably quite a few in the room who have similar memories of your own farms. So, 1972, I turned up. We were conventionally farming, and as mixed farm in Burrawa, so we had sheep, we had cattle, we cropped everything, we used a lot of chemical, we grew some great crops, and it was very industrial, very high input, high output farming, which is fine because that's all I knew, that's all Dad knew. He actually worked in the biscuit factory for 8 years before he turned his hand to a farming career. Other members of the family were farmers, and he gravitated to that. And that in itself is quite an interesting story, but that's for another time. Boarding school for 10 years. Went pearl diving after school for a year. That's fantastic. Up in Arnhem-Land and Darwin and Broome. It was an amazing experience. Anyone who's thinking about pushing their kids straight into university after school, I suggest have a think about that, because I think it's experiential, wisdom. You don't get that at uni. You get to learn how to drink beer at uni, but that's you can learn that anywhere. I did where I'm up to now. Oh yeah, crops. And we did a pretty good job at stuffing things up too. That's well, I shouldn't say stuffing it up, because that's actually like a normal lucerne crop. Back then, it looks horrible to me now, but that was how you had your lucerne through the winter. Lucerne plants and dirt. And that to me was normal. So my education, finished school, pearling, 4 years at rural science degree at Arnott-Grass University, very heavily science-based, and which again, it's fine. It was a university. That's what I went there for. Supposed to be the premier sort of scientific agricultural course in Australia, I believe. And when I reflect on that, we did. I think there was soil biology. It was probably one unit somewhere in the 40. There was one unit of that. And I do remember organic and biodynamic farming was 15 minutes in one lecture. And that was quite a few years ago now. And I don't think, I have it on good word, that hasn't changed much. So, and not just in rural science, in ag science and that sort of thing. I hope that is changing. But again, I didn't know what I didn't know, and at that point in time, I was heading into an agronomy type career, farming and agronomy. I majored in agronomy, but that's pretty much what I knew the world of agriculture to be. So we were conventional farming, lots of chemical, lots of spraying, and what I did. So that was, I'll give you a bit of a time frame. So 1997, I actually, university, went to Sydney, worked in a pub for a couple of years. Again, fantastic experience, just to learn how to deal with people, just to be able to engage one-on-one, 1-on-10, whether you're kicking them out of the pub or you're serving them a beer or pouring them into a cab, to get home. It was absolutely invaluable. Nothing to do with ag. And actually my mother said, go and work in a pub. So there was no hesitation at all. So that was great. The Lord Dudley in Sydney, anyone been there? Good work, top pub. It sponsored me for 2 years pretty much. So, but there was a sense, so then 1997 I said to Dad, I'll come home for 2 months, shearing and harvest, so November, December. Traditional time for shearing and harvest, of course. And then, 10 years later, I sort of woke up one day, literally, and went, oh my God, I'm still here. It was this, not because I couldn't leave, it was just that's just what happened, And for good or for bad, I have no regrets about that. But I guess when I reflect, it was a time of, I was just doing all I knew, again, which is fine. But towards the end of that 10 years, there was certainly some moments of reflection and disenchantment. Charlie Massey talks about tension events. And it was funny because I had some serious tension events with drought. We used to adjust cattle all over the state, into Queensland, Walgett and Tamworth and Roma, because that's what Dad did and that's what I did, and it was fine. But gee whiz, it cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars, cost lives of animals. We got stuck in the Walgett flood of 1998. 600-acre paddock turned into a 60-acre paddock. We were carting in hay, re-fencing the paddock. It was a nightmare. So things like that made me think maybe there's a better way to do things. I didn't know what that better thing was at the time. And also there was a slow burn. Slow burn. I was young, reasonably single, and spent whatever that means, and spent a lot of time. That was my life. But I did start wondering what was the next thing. And also, what I spent a lot of my time doing was killing stuff to grow things. And that's one of the Charlie Massey's great points in his book called The Reed Warbler, I'm sure you've all heard of, is we're using these sides, pesticide, herbicide, to create life, which is just incongruous, So, and that's coming off the back of a really very scientific background, saying that that's necessary, that's what you did. And I didn't question that because, smarter people than I were telling me what to do. And that continued when I went home because smart agronomists were telling me how to grow canola, how to get rid of red-legged earth mite, how to increase my phosphorus levels, whatever it was, So, but there was a niggling thing saying there was something going on. Aldo Leopold, has anyone read Sound County Almanac? If you haven't, grab a copy. It is the most beautifully written prose about agriculture and life you'll ever read. It's just beautiful. Anyway, agricultural science is largely a race between the emergence of new pests and the emergence of new technologies for their control. That was, in 1948. 100 and whatever years, 20 years ago, nearly 130 years ago. That's just insane. And a lot's happened in those years. No, 100, sorry, I'm going crazy, 70. How's the maths? Yeah, they didn't do maths at Rural Science. We did no maths at all. And no one pulled me up. You're all asleep, come on. And that was it. When I read that, the alarms went off. I said, that is absolutely right. The university is telling us, and that's it. We are supporting this drive to kill more stuff because it is a race. Nature is always changing and chopping and not trying to get in front of us. It's just trying to do its thing, you know. And I love Joel's caressing nature to abundance. I think that's beautiful. So that's what I was partaking in. I was in that race. Whoa, can you hear me? So a bit of a pivotal moment was in 2004. I went to a course called Grazing for... No, I didn't. I went to a course, it was in the paper, and it was profiting from the drought, right? And I thought, I've got to get to this. This is a laugh. You know, profiting from the drought. It was in the millennial drought. And so I poodled along there in Burra. It was a day course, and it was quite a few in the room. And I've got to say that... Is there any RCS graduates, people in the room? Just as a bit of a hands up, yeah? Cool. So it was put on by a resource consulting service up at Yeppoon. They came to Burra, a fellow called Sean Martin put on the day, and it blew my mind because it was the first course I'd been to, and I'd been to lots of top crop meetings and agronomy and production and DPI stuff for years, and it was the first time where we weren't told stuff. You know, we were actually asked to ask ourselves questions, and that was that was just a total, you know, mind explosion because what we ended up doing, what everyone ended up doing, is asking themselves better questions, which is something I always suggest. You know, I support people asking themselves better questions. You get better answers. So we did, and I was asking myself. Even the guy we went to lunch to get a pie, drove down the road, down to the pie shop in Burra, and he said, "Are you happy?" And I said, "Well, I'm not unhappy," you know, which I thought was pretty piss poor, really. You know. Like, no one had ever asked me that question before. My agronomist hadn't, you know, my accountant hadn't, the bank certainly hadn't, you know. So that day was and then that got me into that leveraged me into the week-long Grazing for Profit course that RCS put on again. About a month, luckily it was a month later, because by then I'd answered my pants. You know, I really wanted to know what this thing. I'd had a nibble on the carrot, and it tasted good, you know. So off I went to GFP in Cowra, and that's another total mind explosion week, you know, really busting paradigms, and again asking questions. And what I understood was there are different ways to do things, because again, my university, my childhood, and my experience at home had all been about, as it was, conventional industrial farming, which is fine, but that was all I had. That was my own experience. Where am I going with that? Yeah, GFP. Totally recommend anyone who's a grazier or cropping. They're now doing like a farming and grazing for profit. And it's not just about how to move cows around a paddock. In the States, it's called ranching for profit. And it is like anyone who's even thinking about getting an ag, I totally recommend you do it. It's similar to HM is another sort of stream of this holistic farm management thinking. I haven't done HM. I totally support anyone who wants to do it because the principles are the same. Anyway, that was a real mind. You know, I was awake to so many different things, and what I was experiencing was a push away from what I was doing, which is uncomfortable. You know, change is always a good thing, but it's always uncomfortable. And for me, it was, and I didn't know it then, but I was right in the middle of this really interesting development of a push away from industrial ag because it was painful. You know, one of the humans, you know, driven by one of two things or both, you know, moving away from pain or moving towards pleasure. So it was painful what I was going through. But the other thing was, it was just the beginning of this wonderful, it wasn't even called Regen Ag back then, regenerative agriculture, I should say. But there were people who wanted clean, nutritious, chemical-free food, and I thought that was really cool. And so what I started thinking about was you know, like family values. That's just two words that never even I put together in a sentence. Visions and goals, you know. Who has a business vision written down? Anyone? That doesn't matter if you don't. I'm not the, yeah, you have? Did I say do or don't? Who does? Cool. That's really important. Because what you're doing, you're being farmers, you're living and you're working is the same thing. And it's not a bad thing if you don't have one, but if you have one, it's great, because then you are actually you are operating your life like you're operating your farm towards what I call a lighthouse, right? That's where I want to go, you know, and decisions are made around that. So, family values, visions and goals, totally foreign concepts. That's what you work out, you know. And that's really empowering. Not just for your farm business, but you as an individual. You know, questions of self-worth and fulfilment. I mean, that's stuff farmers don't even talk about. But we did. And we form boards. And one of the wonderful things about RCS is once you go through these courses, you then form these business boards. 7, 8 businesses come together every 4 months and you talk about your problems. And you know, it's a classic because you go into these things, it's 3 days, and you go, right, I'm going to turn up, I'm going to talk about my fencing. I need to sort my fencing and my water. Disaster. And you walk in there and you go, right, I want to talk about fencing and water. And they go, no, we're not. We're talking about your marriage. And you go, that's off limits. I say, no, it's not. Anyway, you get drilled. But the outcome of that is, you know, your marriage gets better. And I actually got, it's funny to sort of say this, I got married as a result of going to this thing. I met my wife at a course called Landmark. Anyone heard of Landmark? Yeah. And if you know, you'll know that's a pretty crazy place to meet your wife. Anyway, and she was coming to these meetings that RCS put on, Executive, I think it's called. And, you know, she was coming to every one, and then, you know, we weren't getting, there was no engagement ring, there was no marriage, and one day one of my board members pulled me up and he said, mate, what are you going to do about this good bird you got here? I was going, I don't know. And anyway, through a series of bashings I hope this, it's actually really good fun, this stuff, by the way. It sounds horrible, but my point is, through this process, you really start asking yourself better questions, and you really have to man up, and you really have to look at what you're doing, not just in your paddock, but in your life, you know. So it's really empowering. And again, I won't bang. I'm not on a commission from RCS, by the way. I just am really passionate about it because I know what it did for me. Powerful stuff. So this is the bit, the paddock between your ears, and I sort of, Penny Scott will argue with me. Where is she? She reckons there she is. She coined it years ago, and you probably did. So thank you, Penny. Charlie Massey, he talks about the real estate between your ears. It's the same thing, and you know, that's relating back to this RCS stuff, this executive link, these boards. It's changing your thinking is the first step. Don't go and put. You know, like one of the things you do with managed grazing is you put all your mobs together, right? You can do that and you can change your fencing and do all this fancy stuff, but you just don't do that until you get your head right, you know? And your head right is about visions and goals and values, you know, asking yourself better questions. That's the key. So what did I learn? I might have missed one. Here we go. Paradigm shift, tension events. I've been distracted. What have I learned on the way? That's that same paddock, by the way. Remember the loosened paddock I said it's got loosened dirt? That photo was taken just here, back that way. That's how it is now. That was spring last year. We were 40% of our rainfall. So, what have I learnt? This is the thing I had to change. One of the most important things, I learnt to love my grass more than my cattle. It's a Bud Williams expression. Who was the father of low stress stock handling and the KLR marketing concept. And that was a big game changer, because once you start, if that is your new paradigm, your new way of thinking and the way you make decisions, you change everything you do in farming. Because you're looking after your grass. Your grass is your enterprise, you know. I'm a grass grower, I'm a rain harvester, I'm a soil healer, I'm a health giver. You know, I grow grass, and I hope they change, beef week that's on Rocky. Growing reason, I reckon we should change that to grass week, because that's what we're doing. As farmers, we're growing grass. Running sheep, running cattle, whatever, but we're growing grass. So loving my grass more, because then, when it was time to move those cattle on, when it didn't look like I was loving my grass, that was hopefully before that stage, the cattle have got to go. Not all of them, but I have a hit list. What's the most valuable article running around my paddock that I want to put in the bank? Well, they've got to go. And that's how you conserve feed. That's a whole other conversation. So that's a big one. Love your grass more than your livestock. I suggest. This is not a lesson. This is just a suggestion of what I've learned. The minute I changed from being a commodity farmer, growing commodities, just turning up to the silo with a truckload of wheat saying, yeah, put it in the pool, to, we don't grow grain anymore, but to change that mindset about, I'm actually growing food to feed people here. People are putting this down the throats of their children. I don't know how many, I don't know as a job with more responsibility, the health of people. So when I really, I was really serious about my vocation, my profession, it changed everything again. I didn't want to spray chemical, Anyone hear about it's a whole other conversation, but the Impossible Burger, the meat patty thing? Yeah? It's not meat. No, you're dead right. Sorry, Doyle. Yeah, no, it's this fake meat. It's soy and whatever, crazy stuff. Someone sent me a post today, and they said, glyphosate found in these patties, whatever they are. So that for me is a real brain thing, because I go, people are going, this is what we're going to do to save the planet. We're going to save the planet, we're going to kill everyone at the same time. I think it's crazy. But anyway, so changing mindset. I'm a food grower, not a commodity farmer. Really, really important. Changes again everything about who my customer is, who my client is, what relationship do I have with them, and what relationship I have with nature. Another cracking one from Aldo. When a thing is right when it tends to preserve the integrity, stability and beauty of the biotic community. It is wrong when it tends otherwise. That's working with nature, caressing nature into abundance. Partnering with nature. Our biggest business partner, our most loyal and valuable and present business partner is nature. Unless you are in a factory farming situation, that's a different story. But if you are, growing grass, moving cattle around, putting crops in, that's nature is your friend, So that's really important. So again, when decisions are made based on, would a business partner do that thing? Like, would a business partner spray chemical on my business partner? Probably not. Not a good thing, as an example. Mentoring, another thing. I couldn't suggest more strongly, find yourself a mentor. Your family member, you're a good friend, someone you can trust, anyone. Mentoring doesn't have to be about ag. A lot of this mentoring stuff is about this, reading a book about Joel, and one of his books, that's a form of mentoring, so that's one of the most powerful things. It's not about running a farm, it's about running you, how to operate you as best you can. That's Dad, he's a legend, still with us, thankfully. Calls himself the Jackaroo when he's at home. It's classic. People matter most is the next one. And I love Joel's, and I'm not sure if he mentioned it today, your sort of the 3 C's, character, culture and community. They're sort of self-explanatory, but they all relate to people, And this is the thing, in the RCS world, there's a pot, right? Imagine a pot with 3 legs, and one of the legs of the pot is production, one is finance, economics, and the other is ecology, environment. 3 legs of the business. And in the pot are the people, they sit there. And if one of those legs is wobbly, guess what happens? The people fall out. So if your decisions again are made around the people, having good people in your business, then you'll make sure those legs are stable. Otherwise, And we're working in family farms, so those people in the pot are probably going to be your children, your mum, your dad, your wife, husband. Important stuff, I reckon. Fred, that's Fred, our new manager. Anyone know Fred? Classic guy. And Rob Young, fantastic guy. So Rob was with 3.5 years. Fred's been there for 6 months now. Just incredible individuals. And, I'm away from the farm a lot, and knowing that it is in safe hands. I mean, they're part of the family. I was talking to Rob this morning. He hasn't worked for him for 6 months. We're chatting away about stuff. He sent me a photo of anyone ever tried fried porridge? Dollop of porridge, fry it. Fantastic. Anyway, he's sending me photos of fried porridge. That's the sort of relationship we have. No, lovely people. So people matter most. And that's, in our business, by the way, we have a monthly meeting. It's another one of these, the RCS sort of things you learn to do, or your suggestions. And we score everyone on their current state of well-being. We have a number of different criteria, which I'll get to. And we, the wife of Fred, Emma, she's not working out in the paddocks, but she's part of the business. So we make sure that they're okay. We get these sort of scores every month. People matter most. That is a paddock out the back of our place in about 2001. Pulling that fence down, getting it ready to sow pasture. Now that was perfectly good pasture before we sprayed the crap out of it. It was beautiful native pasture. And I went, oh no, I've got to spray that out. And that's just horrible, Anyway, that's the same paddock today. That was taken 2 days ago. That shot was probably a bit more up there, but that's my point is that things have changed. And droughts are, as I said, controversial. Droughts are man-made, in my view. Drought is there because grass is not there. We can't make it rain, but what we can do is when it does rain, we can capture that rain. We can focus on what we can control. We can't control the rain, but we can make sure when it does fall. 4 inches on that, where it's going to go in the Lachlan River and away it goes. 4 inches on that, you're going to get some runoff, but most of it will stay there. A lot of it will stay there. So droughts are man-made, in my view. And I know, 3 years of no rain and the wind blows the grass away. Can't help that. I totally understand that. It's harder to have this conversation out in the Western Division of New South Wales. However, that's what I believe. And it's our decisions. Our land management makes things like that, That's Jim. Jim Chow worked for us for 35 years. Lovely. And his son, Graham, has worked for us. He started when he was 16. He's now 58. People matter most. You are not what you do. That's took me a little while to get my head around that, but I am a farmer, but I don't identify myself as a farmer. I'm an artist, I'm a creator, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm all those things, but I'm not governed by the farming box, because I think that can be a trap. Because when we think that we are a farmer and that's what we do, and that's fine, that doesn't change what we do, but it does define a lot of our thinking. And stepping out of that box lets us think about a whole lot of different stuff, which I think is really powerful and important. Release control of nature and embrace control of your economics. If we spend our time fighting nature, battling drought, it's all over the headlines, we've got to battle drought. And has anyone beaten nature? Really, long term? No one. So why do we go into battle with drought, battle nature? And if we can change our focus from battling nature to not fighting our economics, but just focusing on our economics, the price, let's not be price takers anymore. Or let's focus on being more of a price maker, I should say. So I think changing our focus is really important. This is great. This is industrial farm. If I can just simplify it, that's industrial conventional farming. We're the centre of everything. The almighty. We're just part of the system in nature. That's our role. That's what we should be embracing. This is our place in nature because it's our partner. You know, that's the back, one of our back paddocks looking west. Yeah, no, yeah, I'm just not, I'm not happier anywhere else, but there. A couple of other quick ones there. Good one from Wendell Berry. The soil is the great connector of lives, the source and destination of all. It is the healer and restorer and resurrector by which disease passes into health, age into youth, death into life. Without proper care for it, we can have no community, because without proper care for it, we can have no life. I don't need to say anything else there, I don't think. Earth turns to gold, to gold in the hands of the wise. That's my daughter Lilla with some compost we make. She doesn't actually look too happy holding that, does she? Go and hold that, I'll take a photo. But it is, it's true. You know, this stuff is gold, and we, when it's nurtured, when it's caressed, you know, it is gold. It's more valuable than gold, without a doubt. Another one, disease. You know, the root cause. This is again really important stuff. That our disease, you know, the link between our guts and our and soil and the food and I mean, it's just, you can, you know, read all that, but it's the point is that we've got to look here. We can't figure around out here. You know, go to a doctor and sort out your fibromyalgia, arthritis, diabetes. That's, you know, that's traditional medicine. You know, let's get down here and actually look at what's going on, and it all gets back to the soil. In my view, this is a variation on yours, Joel. This is fantastic. This is about finding that sweet spot, and I'm sorry I got cut off purpose. You know, this intersection of all these, that which I love and that which you are good at is your passion, and so on. Mission, vocation, profession. That's the place to be. And if you aren't thinking about this, or you aren't willing to change that, you'll never get there. You know, if you're thinking, I'm a farmer and that's all I do, you won't get there. If you're not thinking about people, your family, your value, your visions, I don't think you're going to get there. Because all these things guide you back. You know, you create the map. That's a lighthouse, right? You're creating a map to get from this point to that lighthouse. You got to start asking these questions. In my view, I'm not here to lecture you at all. This is fascinating. I love it. Albert Einstein, of course, he does all the good quotes. The 5 ascending levels of intellect: smart, intelligent, brilliant, genius, simple. That's the smart stuff. The smart people are doing things simply and keeping it simple. Gut biome equals soil biome. That is, that's, you know, Christine Jones, her work, Zach Bush. If you want some fascinating but spine-tinglingly horrifying information, Zach Bush is your man. He sort of brings farming and health together. He'll be the first minister of, when the departments of health and agriculture are joined together, he'll be the first minister, I suggest. Where do we go? Oh, 80% of something is better than 100% of nothing. Just give it a shot. Don't wait for perfect. Joel has some wonderful views on that that whole topic. You know, just act. You know, inertia can be very painful. Or yeah. Sell a sizzle, not just a sausage. Again, that's a message Joel bangs on about, and I think it's, you know, every one of you has a story. You could all write your own book. And if you don't write a book, get a video. Get a, you know, tell your story. It's value. There's value in that, I believe. And that's pretty straightforward. Okay, I won't read that out. I mentioned before about visions and values. We have a statement of intent. It's what we do. It is things like we are a profitable agricultural business managed in a harmonious fashion that is in line with our values, using generative natural resource management methods, producing food to sell to customers directly. That's one of them. And it's those criteria, and there's another 8 or so of those. We use that to create our people scores when we measure people's well-being. Hey, who has a doctor? Yeah? You know their name? Yeah? How often do you see them? Roughly. Come on, more of you have doctors than that. Every 6 months, 12 months? You know them well? Are they important? Come on, let's be honest. Who's your farmer? You got one? Good. Because when I ask people that, and they say, oh, you got a doctor and doctor whatever, and they're lovely, I know where they live, and I see them once every 12 months, and then you say, who's your farmer? They look at you like you've got two heads. And you go, well, how often do you need a farmer? And they go, oh, 3 times a day. But no one knows their farmer. The most important person in their life, not being a smarty pants, is really the person who's providing their health. You know, so I always ask people that, and I when I do speak to businesses and so on, I say you should have a farmer on your board, and that farmer is where you go for your retreat and your breakout sessions and your yearly, annual whatevers, and he could probably tell you a bit about people stuff, and he could probably provide food. And let's face it, doctors didn't always get it right. So, where are we? So this is, that's just a flock of sheep and a mob of cattle. Regenerative agriculture. Definition. My definition is reasonably simple. It's anything that supports the 5 landscape functions that Charlie Massey talks about: solar, water, mineral, biology and people. And also that really, the outcome of that is building soil quality and quantity. And I think if you're doing any of those things, you can probably, you're probably a regenerative farmer. That's debatable. One other thing, you know that expression, you are what you eat? I kind of like the expression, you eat what you are. I think that actually is more appropriate, because you know when you go and have a big night, you go out and you eat a greasy hamburger the next day, right? That's what you want. You know, you're eating to what you're thinking and the way you feel. And I think it's a good point to make that if we actually have an intention for our bodies, we'll go and eat what we need. So, we eat what we are. If we are healthy, if we are thinking about what we're being, our self, our individuality and our being, we will source the food we need. What are we doing now? Very quickly, this is going to be, I'm going to drill through this one. Right, my daughter, kids, grass, cattle, happy days. More of that. Quiet cattle. Pigs. We've got some for sale if anyone wants any. There's more. We take sheep and pigs to the market together if we need to. Actually, the other day we had an old cow, a 6-year-old cow we're selling to a fellow in Canberra. He's putting it through his restaurants. He wanted an old ewe, and then we had some pigs. Pigs as well, the classic. I'll have to get a photo of it. So we sell meat into Sydney at Victor Churchill's. Anyone been there? It's the most smarty pants butcher in the world, apparently. 1888, we haven't done that for a few years, at Charlie Crichton, lovely fella. Restaurants taking food. That's our pork. And I took 2 lambs and a pig, and everything on this Italian feast was our meat. It was fantastic. Oh, that didn't work out, did it? That's stuffing horns. Just tilt your head. We use Biodynamic as one of our principles of fertility. So that's stuffing lactating cow manure into horns. That's a whole other conversation. That's them stuffed, and they go on the ground over winter, from autumn to spring. And the stuff that comes out is just, talking about gold, it's just incredible. Black in colour, but it's just gold. That's pulling them out in the spring. Different types, that's actually stuff that goes, that's the 500 we just saw, and that's manure concentrate, which is, we do a similar thing, we put it in the ground, you can make much more of it, but we use that 150 grams a hectare. And that's, 50 grams a hectare. Simple stuff. We hold field days. Hamish Mackay, who's our biodynamic educator, and Sir Patrick Holden of the Sustainable Food Trust in the UK. What I've found in this world of regenerative agriculture is just the people are just amazing. And look at you all here on your, Tuesday. You've bothered to come all the way from all over the place, I've no doubt. Just the people are so collegiate, and they're just, they want to share, which is quite different to my experience with other types of farming. Lots of tree planting, erosion control, so that was in about 2001, that was probably 3 years ago, excluding stock, putting stock in every year, planting trees, salt, there was salt schools there. Oh, I've got a pointer, salt schools there. They're still there a bit, but this whole thing, it's just healing, I won't bang on about that, we haven't got time. This is a lot of tree planting. This is canola in 2001 in spring. That's what we did, we grew a heap of canola. And then this was just the other day, same shot. There's the road, you can see this hill there, and those hills, and now you've got trees on it. There's trees pretty much all at the base of that hill. It's all part of a land care agroforestry plantation. Tree planting, getting involved, bit of fire. Whoop! She loves it. When her mother found out, she freaked. Honey, we've got our own bees. It's just, I love it. It's just, that's Jim. Jim got engaged on Friday. He got engaged in one of our paddocks. I was so honoured. He's starting his life with his wife-to-be, and they slept up on top of a hill and had it's just fantastic. I love it. That's wonderful things are happening. We make words with fruit out of the garden. We have groups of visitors coming along and doing, this is one of the RCS boards actually, came winter last year. Work with the MLA, Meat and Livestock as an advocate for their sort of paddock to plate sort of stuff, chefs and butchers and so on. Kids come and plant trees, and they do, the Burrawa Education Program is a fantastic award-winning program, and these kids who are years 5 and 6 teach girls from year 10 from one of the Sydney schools, private schools, and you should see these little guys running around, they're just like so pumped. They're telling these big, these older girls how it is to farm. It's fantastic, and they plant trees, it's lovely. We do mental, this one was actually like actually someone in the room went to one of these. I'm not going to identify who it is. But it was a wonderful, we brought some farmers together under sort of the lid of regenerative agriculture sort of chit chat, and we went really deep on stuff. We talked about, suicide, mental health, what it is to be a man, not in that traditional sense of a man, but just being vulnerable. There were tears, it was just mind-blowing. Facilitated by Tommy Herschel there. There's a few more that had to leave, but it was just, I don't know, it's just good fun. Oh, that's Friday afternoon drinks. Patrick McManaway. Anyone heard of Patrick? Yep. Subtle Energy, look that up, it's fascinating. Really crazy good, amazing. And Patrick, I was going to tell you a story about Patrick, but I don't have time. I can't remember the story. He's a landscape acupuncturist. Okay, so if you've heard of things like ley lines and black water in the ground, he identifies energies in the landscape that are either natural, they're geographic, or they've been put there by individuals or groups of people, and he can get rid of them. We don't have time to go into it, but it's fascinating stuff. Bit of spooky wah-wah, but it's great. And dowsing, okay, so someone coming out and doing a dowsing for water, he uses dowsing as one of his modalities to, fascinating guy, subtle energies, good work. Yeah, totally, yeah, you can't keep up, that's in the summer, happy cattle, wandering around. What else have I here? That's my beautiful wife, hot wife, there she is. She's happy, I'm happy. Oh, is that it? Nope. Oh, I won't have time to play that video, I don't think. But it's good. It's 3 minutes. Do it! My family moved here 50 years ago. We were a mixed farm and we used a lot of chemical and we battled drought. Battling nature, I don't know anyone's ever won. We didn't want to battle a drought anymore. The big change we made was focusing on what you can control. So whilst we still face the same challenge, what we do differently is how we approach and how we actually capture that water when it does fall. I'm Charlie Arnott. This is our property Hanamino at Burrawa. We're biodynamic farmers. We produce beef and lamb and some pork.
So one of my jobs, and we do it every day, is we turn sunlight into grass into meat. Using livestock as a tool, moving around this landscape strategically to improve the pasture and improve soil. I'm a firm believer in it's much better to give a man a fishing rod and teach him how to use it than just give him fish. So that we teach other farmers how to farm biodynamically and holistically and help communities around Australia create their own regenerative farming hubs so that farmers within a region or district are able to support and grow the food for those areas. A lot of farmers currently are focusing on what's not in their control, like the weather. We can't make it rain, but what we can do is keep a good ground cover of grass on our landscape, so when it does rain, we're utilising and trapping that water. That's just one example. The time we spend, literally the dollars we spend putting into this has reduced because we're not depending on other people to buy chemical and to buy products to put into this. We're working with nature, we're making our own compost, we're using the tools we already have here, being sheep and cattle, to improve this landscape strategically. That's where we're going to have the biggest impact, is teaching farmers how to do things differently. That's the biggest barrier. Once someone gets over that hump, there's no looking back, because there's a tide of regenerative agricultural practices and examples that is literally sweeping the nation. Because it is our responsibility, we're stewards of this landscape, we've been blessed to be responsible for it, and that resource of people is Landcare's most precious asset. We've got 5,000 acres in which we can be creative as a family and as a business. It gives us great opportunity to express ourselves, putting our mark on it with our improvement of pasture, our improvement of soil, and the growing and the nurturing of trees as we do, is hopefully going to be one of my greatest legacies. It's my sanctuary, so this is where I guess I find a lot of my solace. There's so much potential here, and this will be here for my family, hopefully for generations.
We're on social media, we do a lot of that sort of stuff, and again, it's about telling the story, and I really enjoy doing it, and give it a shot. It's good fun. Getting involved with this organisation, Venture Organic, and it's about the intention of Venture Organic is it's basically a business which supports. Its intention is to transition farmers to regenerative agricultural practices, and the outcome of that being we have more nutritiously dense food on the table, and that being normal. I'd like to think that it's normal not to go to the supermarket in 10, 20 years' time. That's what this business is aiming to do, and it's helping businesses scale up and start up, and helping with pitches and mentoring, and even finding capital to buy farms. Again, mentoring and anything to do with business, essentially, is being a support mechanism for that. This is great. Responsibility. It's, we always talk about, we've got to be responsible, and we have a responsibility. It's actually two words, it's response and ability, and the power in this word is, thinking about our ability to respond. My responsibility to my business is about my ability to respond to rain. How do I respond when it rains? Well, I've got to make sure there's ground cover, as an example. And that can be applied to anything, This is great. The solution to our planetary health is what's beneath our feet and what we choose to eat. And for me, that's the best summary of all of this stuff. What's under our feet? The soil. It's producing what we eat. That's my daughter. That's Lordy. We reckon he's 18 months now. He's a cross between Tarzan and Barney Rubble. He's a classic. He's a machine. And that's just all our stuff. So we're pretty active. That's enough for me. I hope that was of some value. Thank you for your time.